Today we have a very special subject, and it's DIY audio, which means do it yourself. As I wrote it here, DIY. Why you should do things yourself, why you should go doing tweaking with gear, building your own cables maybe, or doing some little tweaks, or even going all the way, building speakers for you, amplifiers, and so on. It's really a daunting task, and now I just give you a realistic overview what you can achieve with DIY. So I think probably most of you or all of you have already experienced a big experience where you hear a system which has exceptional sound qualities and you have been totally mesmerized by it. And if you live in the United States, then most probably you have seen something like this or that, or a combination of the two. And as people in Middle Earth said when they were faced against immeasurable odds, they said, what can do against such relentless power? How can I compete? Because it's really obvious that once you get a glimpse of the far high end of audio, that we are talking about prices that are completely surreal and not realistic. And right away after your wonderful experience getting submerged to the magic world of sound reproduction, you immediately get here. You immediately develop an addictive relationship with stereo, and your desire is fighting with your wallet, with your non-existing millions of dollars or euros. And from then on, your life is just a downhill slope of trying to just cut savings from all corners of your finances to be able to afford that kind of gear that produces that sound that you crave for. But there's a hope. So even in Mordor, a tiny hobbit can be just as big a player as the mightiest of the gods of the land. And so it is in the world of stereo. Just a lone DIYer can reach such heights, can build a system for himself or herself as the ones that you see in the showrooms. But the big difference between the two will be that if you just save up your money or choose a profession, or you are born into a situation where you can easily afford $1 million, in that case you buy someone else's dream. And if you go on your journey to find out how to build things for yourself, how to modify stuff, how you put together your dream, then you will be living your dream, not someone else's dream. And when you live your dream, that's something that no money on earth can substitute. And however, there will be one very big difference between these two roads, because these are the two paths you have to choose between if you are in audio and you want an exceptional sound system for yourself. You either go into this addictive relationship, hard finance road to chase someone else's dream, and if you choose that road, then you will get tremendous validation from the community, because you will get to know a lot of people who are in stereo, who have audio gear, and if you can brag that ooh, I brought this latest $1 million speakers, then everyone will be ooh and ah, and they will regard you as some sort of wonder child or a miracle kid or wonder grandpa if you are at that age. Everyone wants to come over and have a peek at your system. However, so you get tremendous validation. However, the problem is that I have to tell it right at the beginning to you, even if you are already at that level, you have $1 million system, that it just gets harder and harder every year. Because 20 years ago, when I started my audio journey, my audiophile journey, like 25 years ago, then the most expensive system was around $100,000. So that was the peak. And now it's over $1 million. And if you just start now, then by the time you will reach the adulthood of your audiophile career, then the systems by then, like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they will be way above $10 million per system. So if you think that if I save up $1 million, then 10 years from now I can have the best, no. Then 10 years from now, you can scratch your head again. How do I save up an additional $90 million to get that $10 million or $100 million system? Because within like 20-30 years, it will be $100 million system that will be the state of the art of the future, and it's getting exponentially more and more expensive. So just be prepared for that. If you are on that road, then you will not have any time to enjoy audio, because you will need all your time and all your effort to make that kind of money. And if you have that stereo, maybe your children will be able to enjoy it, or you won't be able to have time to have friends, but you will be very limited. And even if you get success that way, you are facing really serious case of burnout. And that happens because as you buy your dream system, let's say for $300,000 right now, and you are really happy with it, and then next day you open up your iPhone or your cell phone or web browser, whatever, and you see that a newer version of your amplifier came out, which costs $500,000. So you will be sad again, because there's an additional step to the dream, and you have to chase it. And you are constantly on this path that you are chasing the dream after dream after dream, and it's never enough. You will never ever arrive to the end. It's because even though there are equipment costing that sort of ridiculous money, but they are not perfect. They can do great things, but they also have sometimes great faults as well, and great failings. So the coin has two sides, and often when you have an unbalanced system that has all of aspects in control, then it will not sound as spectacular. And to make it spectacular, every manufacturer needs to make a compromise. And because of that, you get this burnout situation. You get the situation that there's always newer and newer gear coming up that's trying to overcome the weaknesses and turn the weaknesses into positives, but at the same time they flip the coin and they develop additional weaknesses that were not in the previous versions of the system. So your other choice is to become the audiophile pilgrim, to go on your own journey, to start learning. In that case, you will get very little validation, because you will be probably starting out with used and so-called outdated technology from a decade ago, or maybe even longer time ago. So people will think, what, you have like a stereo 70, come on, or my grandpa used to play around with that, that's passé. But at the same time, you will experience tremendous amount of progress, and you will go towards balance. The more you learn, the more you know, the more you produce, the more balanced your lifestyle will be. So each of these roads, so there you got two choices. You are either in the drowning camp or you are in the swimming camp. And it's the swimming camp has a really crucial attribute to it, is that during the time when you are searching for what you want and modifying, tweaking, building stuff, you will find out what you really want. If you just stick to that path that you are just buying prepackaged meals for you, basically, then you will never realize what it is that you truly desire. If you are always jumping on the boat of someone else's dreams, you will never ever fulfill your own dreams. So step one in this path is experience what is possible, experience what other people did with their dreams, and then step two, light of hope. This is what I'm giving to you, that yes, even though the mainstream and those people who have $1 million equipment, they absolutely trash the DIY community because they want validation. What sort of validation would it be if a guy for $10,000 builds for himself a system that sounds better than what he paid for $1 million? That would totally ruin his confidence, his security. So that's why you will hear on YouTube and everywhere that DIY is just second rate, it just sucks and it's not serious. But no, it depends on you. If you are not serious, then it will be just second rate. But if you take it seriously, then yes, you can compete with those big manufacturers who create very expensive products. And the way to do that is to educate yourself. So I have a few quick pointers on how to start your education. One of it is the online forums. Look online. There's like two big forums, the Audio Asylum and the DIYaudio.com forum. Just log into these, create a username for you, and just see what people are posting. Get some direction from there, and then you will see people's successes, how they fail, what works out, what doesn't. There's like tremendous involvement of the audio community in these two forums. There's also a lot of trolling around, so you will see that those people who are really serious, their voices are often downtrodden by the snake oil peddler, insecure strata of the audiophile community, who are not really audiophile, but they are using it as a means to create a little bit of excitement in their lives. And the other interesting part which will truly benefit you, is to get audio buddies. Get to know people who live around you or even online, and make friends with them who are also interested in audio, and share experience with them. This is the most valuable tool and most valuable thing that you can take with yourself on your audio journey. Because if there's a group of you, if there's 10 of you together sharing experiences, all of you will progress not just 10 times faster, but probably about 50 times faster compared to as if you were alone. Because all of you can try out different things and you can compare it. If you were just by yourself, to try all of those things out by yourself, you don't have that much money, you don't have that much time, effort, resources, and so on. And you will need to rack up a few skills. And some of these skills will be soldering, learn how to solder, learn basic electronics, and most probably you will need woodworking skills, basic woodworking skills. In the beginning, it's enough if these skills are rudimentary, Slowly along the years, you will get better at them. After a decade or 2 decades, you will be an expert in these fields. So just for you, if you are thinking about starting up soldering, I learned how to solder when I was in my adult life, when I was in my 20s. and and actually I learned from my wife. I'm not ashamed to say it out loud. And a couple of suggestions for you if you just are thinking to start up is get first a good solder station. Don't get a solder iron or a pencil like a 20 watt, 30 watt. Those are toys, and they will not they will make your life really miserable. You really need a decent solder station, and I can really recommend Hakko, because I got my Hakko over 20 years ago, and it's going strong, and I'm using the same iron with it. The tips last forever. Basically they last like 6-7 years. The only tip I destroyed was the one that I accidentally left the station on for 4 days. And it didn't burn down, but the tip was damaged that I could not... Actually, I still could use it before, but it had lots of pits that developed, so I just changed for a new one. So for if you want a Hakko, just get the smallest model. I think it's 50 or 60 watts, but don't be alarmed by it. It works better than many other brands which are advertised as 100 watt stations. Just make sure that you get a medium iron with it, not the small size. And if you get the medium one, then if you can get a fine round tip for circuit board works, dealing with fine things, and a heavy flat or beveled tip for point-to-point soldering. And for solder, use 2 types of solder. Get basic rosin core. So that's what I actually use now. This is the best to start with to learn to solder. Now I exclusively use it only to desolder, and for everything I use 4% silver caster solder or other solders. But that takes experience how to work with silver bearing solder, because you need higher temperatures, and if you are a beginner it will just give you tremendous frustration. Even experienced people who are experienced with soldering, the first time they try to use silver bearing solders, they are extremely frustrated. And I know several old-timer audiophiles who are grandmasters of soldering, and then they just totally gave up on silver soldering because it's frustrating, and it has a few tricks. I will tell you later how to work with silver solder. And use steel wool for cleaning your solder tips. Do not use those sponges. It doesn't really work that well. But steel wool is just perfect. And also get a desoldering tool like these solder pulls. This is a very cheap thing, and that you can just suck up the solder from your old joint. So this is my takeaway message, is that imagine now and plan out where do you want to be 20 years from now on your audio journey. Because I'm now at this mark, like 25 years, or rather 25. And believe it or not, 25 years ago I explicitly mapped out for myself where I want to be 20 years later. And I am exactly at the stage where I wanted to be. So this is my recommendation for you too. Do not worry about the odds, that what is the cost of audio equipment around the world. Just set up the goal, what is it that you want to achieve, and then work your assumptions off to create that reality for you. For me, it was about 10,000 hours of learning. So if you put in 10,000 hours of learning and work in audio, then you can put together a system which gives you your dream sound. But if you think that you are just going to get it by staying on your couch, eating chips, or just being outside and surfing, and it suddenly happens to you, then I have to disappoint you. It will never happen. Or if you have a false expectation, okay, I got my solder station, I watched 10 YouTube videos, and I flipped through 5 pages, and now I'm going to build for myself a kick-ass tube amplifier, which will be the best sounding amp in the world, and I don't have to worry about anything else. Then you just set yourself up for major disappointment. Yes, it will get you somewhere, but you will not be able to put together a system so easily. And just be prepared for much more work than you thought you will need, but also be prepared for arriving where you want to be 20 years from now. And just be prepared that this journey will take at least a decade to get to a point where you feel that, okay, now I am where I wanted to be. Within 5 years, I would say even during the first year, you will have tremendous successes, but you will be very far away from what is the state of the art today. But in 10 years, in 20 years, yes, you will be able to put together something that will bring tremendous amount of joy, balance, fulfillment, and happiness to your life. Thank you for watching, and if you like, please like and subscribe, and I will keep on bringing you more advice on how you can reach your audio dream.